being a League of Legends pro has been really draining and exhausting. When you play at the top level in League, you don't really have a life. You don't have much free time on your hands, and every single part of your day is spent doing something that makes you better at the game, that can make you a better player, whether it's scrims, solo queue, going to the gym, working with your mental coach, whatever it may be. I moved to LA to play for Team Liquid. I still remember clearly how I had talked to the team's mental coach about how to mentally prepare for it. You know, Berlin is pretty close to Denmark. I was pretty comfortable there because my family, my girlfriend, they could easily come and visit me. LA was a different story. So in the off-season last year, I came to the conclusion that if there wasn't any opportunity for me that I thought was just straight up perfect, I would rather take the year off to actually just focus on my own mental state, my health, and actually have that time with all the people close to me that I felt like I had missed out on. I think it's been good because it also gave me the opportunity to try new things. This year of doing full-time streaming with a bit of LEC analysis and casting on the side has been a great middle ground, because I'm still playing a ton of League of Legends. That way I'm making sure that I can still play the game at a high level. I enjoy streaming, I enjoy content creation. It's very different than being a pro player, and that's something I've had to get used to, that all of a sudden my income is not based on how good I am at the game, it's based on how entertaining I can be. And that's a very big adjustment to make, but that's also been fun to try to play around with that and see what I could do in that area. And something I have been focusing on this year is, again, having a bit more of a normal lifestyle and actually having time for myself. So sometimes having the weekends off, for example, being able to have a bit more free time and just doing stuff that makes me happy outside of purely gaming. I think throughout the year I've tried to work on the different aspects of content creation in like phases. First of all, it was getting started with the streaming and getting that going, then eventually trying to find out like how to approach YouTube, how to approach social media. And I think one of the interesting parts about it is that all the different platforms are so different and needs to be approached in different ways. I feel like it's almost impossible to perfect any of them. It's like just a constant learning curve of trying to figure out where to move your content. Also because if you keep doing the same thing for too long, eventually it's going to be repetitive and boring. It's a fun and very, very different challenge. I guess the big difference now when I changed from being a pro player to a content creator was all of a sudden my stream wasn't interesting because I was a pro player anymore. I had to figure out like what made it unique all of a sudden. Ended up going for like positive vibes route, like just trying to have a chilled space where I'm being positive and educational, and kind of figured that was something the League of Legends community hopefully could use. So far it's been successful.
In addition to finding your niche, it's important to build a connection with your audience. That's why this video sponsor is O. O is a new app that makes it really easy to interact and engage with your audience. And it's got very unique ways where you can create challenges, quizzes. You can have your fans that actually tune in and interact with you and send in their own video submission. And it's also is built by former Twitch executives, so they really understand what it means to create interactivity. There's going to be a link to the app in the description, and I really encourage you to check it out, play around with it, and see about fun ways that you can engage with your community on the app. There's a lot of the listeners are new creators, and they're like figuring out that question of like, what's going to make people watch my content? How did you approach creating content that's interesting beyond just you being a pro?
Finding out in the League of Legends space what personalities are there, what other big streamers are there, and how I can compete with them. At the end of the day, the way I look at it is that you need to give people a reason to choose your stream over any of the other thousands and thousands of Twitch streams, right? And that's a really tricky challenge to do. Like just gamers generally, non-pro players, but also some pro players, they just don't care about anything other than the game. They just want to play the game constantly. Anything beyond that, they couldn't care less. Gonna be like super unhealthy and deprioritize everything else. But at the end of the day, I have come to the conclusion that being a professional League of Legends player, or for any esport in that matter, should be like being a professional athlete in a sport, where all these outside factors and everything they do can add extra percentages, right? In sports, it's also really important to build a brand, because that way they can get sponsorship income, they can get all sorts of benefits along with that can help them in the long run, not only in terms of their income, but also in terms of getting extra goods that can help them achieve something more within their field. And in the same way, if you sleep enough, that can add 1-2 extra percentages to how good you are as a player. That can help make the difference between you going to Worlds or not. I've always tried to look at the big picture and look beyond just the game itself, because at the end of the day, I think being a good League of Legends player is like maybe 60% how good you are at the game. The other 40 is just pure mental, being able to focus, doing these outside factors, because you are sitting at the PC, you are just looking at the screen, and in that sense, everyone's even. It's not like physical abilities have any impact. So it's just about finding out how you can get that advantage over everyone else. Again, I've had teammates who were also the opposite. I've had teammates in pro who would wake up, sit at their PC for like 16 hours a day, go to bed, and then repeat the next day.
What's fascinating about that one is what I found, I don't know if you were similar, is they judged you for doing the other stuff. Like there was almost like a judgment of like, wow, like you're wasting time going to the gym, or like wasting time getting good food rather than like just food that comes quick. Or it was so interesting navigating that, where they were like judging your streaming, for example, that you were choosing to stream. I remember when I was streaming, and Frog was a big proponent of this too, would stream a lot, and like the other teammates might judge us and go, wow, you guys are streaming too much.
Yeah, for sure. And I think most people would be able to relate. It's like if you are in a really toxic environment in school or at work, and you have like people that you have to be around 8-10+ hours a day. You have to constantly talk to them, be able to cooperate and work with them. But if there's no trust and no respect, then it's gonna turn into some very, very long and draining days. And I've definitely gone through that as well. I think one of the most tough periods I've had was a period where the team I was on wasn't doing so well. We were going through different problems, and we were kind of on the phase where we were about to build it back up. And then no one could really agree on like how to play the game. Players were disagreeing, coaches were disagreeing, and it got to the point where the coaches just decided how they wanted us to play. They didn't want to give us any power, and they told me very specifically, this is how we want you to path, this is how you have to play, we're not going to give you a choice. But that really hurt me a lot in game, because whereas before I would always just do what I thought was right and trust my instincts, all of a sudden every single time I was to make a decision, instead of making the decision right away, I would have a conversation with myself in my head about like, if I make this decision, if I go for this play, what are the coaches going to say? And that's very inefficient, right? So yeah, I think just overall, having a good environment, having everyone be on the same page is so important for so many reasons.
If you enjoyed that video, watch this one next. And if you want to go pro as a creator, join Pipeline to get the tools and knowledge to be a successful streamer. Just click the link in the description below.